Okay, so I'm live right now. Current viewer. All right, so can you hear me right now? Yeah, I got it to work, or at least I think I did. How's the audio? How's the audio? Cause I'm using a new. It's not bad. Okay. Cause I just got a new mic that that I've been using, so I'm trying to get my setup figured out so that I can start doing this a little more often. Um, let's see. So we got two people right now. Do you have any questions that you have right now? We got a couple minutes. I need to get a couple different screens so that I can be able to read some things. A guy on the group posted about some questions, and I'm gonna try to answer those. Let me go find him real quick, so I can go get that. Let's see. Okay. All right, so we got it here. Let's see. Once I get started on the project, I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So I think what what I'm going to start off with is, I think I'm going to talk about some of the builds that I've done. Let me see if I can try to share this first. Um, I guess and start with how I guess really even how I got started even. Um, hoping to get the body that month. Okay, that's awesome. What color are you looking for? What color RX-8? Get up a little closer. All right. So I'll start off with let's see. So you said it's more of an auto and leather seats. Okay. What engine are you wanting to put in? I mean, obviously an LS. I'm assuming. You're trying to go a manual or an auto. Okay. So I'll talk about correct auto. Okay. Um, so I guess I'll talk about what I talk a lot when I get on the phone with a lot of customers. What I'll talk to them about is depending on what you're trying to do with with the car. Like I was talking to a guy today. He was talking about he was building kind of a drag slash street car for his kid, and he was asking about um, different scenarios of what you could do. He asked if you could put an LSA blower on it. Yes, you can, but there's hood clearance issues with that. You'd have to use, I think, in between a 3 to 4-inch cowl hood on it to be able to fit that. Then you'd have to have the heat exchangers, which I was telling him they could go under the headlights. So I mean, you could do that, but I mean, a cowl on the RX-8, I think that's kind of ugly myself. But I mean, I haven't seen one in person, but it's not really my style. But I mean, that would be an option to be able to do. So then the other one was, I mean, on top of cost of what it's going to take, because you got to get all the pulley systems, you got to get the blower, And then, I mean, most people aren't gonna be, they're not really looking for 800-900 horsepower. And what I told him is, the power difference of me enjoying it with 600 wheel horsepower versus 1,000 really wasn't that much more enjoyable. It's just I was able to race faster, peaceful, is all that kind of happens. Times best. Yeah, I mean you don't even have to have a manual or an auto. Both will have. They're both a lot of fun to drive. I prefer using the 6L80 because the paddles, but they're not really all that responsive. But yeah, so I was talking to him, and with that kind of power level, I mean, you're gonna have traction issues in most places. It's going to be very difficult to have traction whenever you're in low speed. So, what I was telling him is, you could use, and if it's in the budget, depending on how much power you're trying to go after, if you were to use an LS3 and cam it and put 150 shot on it of nitrous, I mean, that's a good amount of power. I mean, that's going to get you to 600 horsepower to the tire. And what I was telling him is that, I ran 127 miles an hour. Yeah, it was 127 miles an hour in a quarter mile with 474 wheel horsepower. So you can definitely, I mean, 600 wheel horsepower, you're talking upper 130 mile an hour trap speeds, which is, I mean, you're talking, that's Hellcat speed almost. Or it might be. I think they trap around that. Let me look. Let's see. I mean, Demon. I think, yeah, Hellcats they trap about 127. So let's see. A Demon trap speed. Let's see. This says 150, but I don't think they trap that fast. Let's see. Quarter mile. Yeah, because I mean 150 is retarded. Yeah, I mean this one's saying 130. I think it can go. I think they actually trap a 140. I think is what they're supposed to. But I mean anyway, I mean you kind of get the point. I mean, close to 140 mile an hour in a quarter mile that's really fast. But another thing is like he was asking, well, how hard can you take off with the different rear ends? So the Mazda one, I did that 127 miles an hour in the quarter mile using the factory diff. I was using an automatic. I cut a 1.5 60 foot. If you don't know what that is, I mean it's not a horrible 60 foot, but it's not like the best out there. Some really fast cars that have used IRS, like I was buddies of mine that were running, high nines in their Chevy SS, the sedan, like the G8, just the newer one. They were cutting mid 1.3s, I think. So I mean, that's a fast car though. I mean they were doing some pretty serious stuff, but trying to get it to do 1.3s would take some suspension work to do that. But the factory differential does work. It just, I was at the overdrive at the end of the track. That's one of the things that was hurting me a lot, because it's slowing you down. Once you get into overdrive, it just kills your top end. So you definitely don't want to be doing that in the quarter mile. So I mean, in theory, what most people talk about is that in the quarter mile, you want to be able to be at the end of your 1-to-1 gear ratio. So what that means is in your 1-to-1, which in the T56 is fourth gear. So you'll want to be at your peak RPM at the end of the trap, going through past the finish line, so to speak. You want to be maxing out fourth gear. Let's see. So all I know is the 8.8 from reading. The factory diff can be used, but the problem with it is if you go beyond 400 wheel horsepower, it does cause problems. One of the guys that I had do that we did his car, he actually ripped the mounting tabs off of the subframe, and now it broke the driver rear axle, and then we had to replace the subframe. You had to replace the the axle, and it bends the mounting arms for the swap kit. But that's why I went to the 8.8, is because I kept wanting to make it to where the RX-8 rear end would hold, but I found that the gearing was more of the problem and not worth what it took in order to make that hold up to the power. So the reason why you don't, like I was saying before, is the gear ratios. The gear ratios are 474s, set 477s and 444s. And with those gear ratios, they're not for V8 power at all. The ones that I used in my car, 355s is pretty decent. That's what the Cobras come with, which is the 8.8. So why we went to the 8.8 is because of the 4 mounts. So on the 8.8, it has 2 mounting points in the back with our kit and 2 mounting in the front. And so it doesn't have an awkward, it's able to stable the diff to where it doesn't twist or move all over the place. Whereas the Mazda diff only has 3, so you have 2 in the back and 1 in the front. And it causes the nose to twist when you accelerate. So that's what ends up breaking the ears off of it, and on top of it, like I said before. So those are the symptoms that you're going to have whenever you break that diff. Or you're not going to break the diff, but the mounting and the axle and stuff when that happens. But for the gear ratios, though, so if you're wanting to, I guess it really is just going to depend on what you're trying to do, but a 355 gear is pretty much ideal for, whatever kind of, just generic, you can kind of use it for everything. It's just not going to be a master of any of it. But, I would recommend, well, it's also going to matter what transmission you use. So, with the Turbo 400 or the Turbo 350 or the 4L60, 4L80, 6L80, 6L90, T56, TR6060, and the CD09, they're all going to kind of have different gear ratios that would work best with them. So you just I would have, let's see, what's the place that I use to determine that? Let's see. Gear calculator. Let's see. Looking up what gear calculator I'd use. Let's see. I think Trimix. Let's see. So I'm going to try to post the calculator link in the comments. So what I typically do is I'll use this link I'm just posting. I'll go to there and play with the calculator, find the gear ratios of those transmissions, and then kind of match it with what I'm trying to do. It does take some effort and knowledge in order to do that, but pretty much like I said before, the most ideal is whatever trap speed that you think that you should run. That's kind of how you would determine what the final gear, the 1-to-1 should be. And then let's see. So let's see. They have some other ones. Let's see. Trap speed calculator. think it's this one. So this is a calculator that you could use to determine the trap speed that you should be at. So if you use that, you'll be able to mess with how much the car weighs. From my experience, the car is going to weigh around 32 to 3,400 pounds at the most. That's kind of the range. So, I mean, you could use 3,400 as a general rule of thumb, and then just put the horsepower that you think that you're going to make, and that'll give you an idea. But I mean, whenever you're not making a whole lot of power, like more than 600 horsepower or up to 600, you're not going to really need to be all that specific. If you're just doing something generic, just use the 350, whatever gear ratio came with the diff. I would recommend going with the Cobra. It's the simplest one to use. Let's see. So the next build that I had after. So the first build I had was a 4.8 liter with a T56, and then after that one, and with that one I used the factory differential. I rode that one for, I don't know, it was probably at least 4 years that I drove that one around. I put 30,000 miles on the car. I ended up selling to a buddy of a friend, and he ended up running it through water. Insurance got in it, and we put an LS1 in it, and then I haven't seen or talked to him since then. So that was the second build that I did, or no, that was the first one. And then the second one I did, I think I went to a JZ is what I did. I did the one JZ swap, which that was a really fun swap. But one of the downsides of using the JZ is that you cannot pass OBD2 emissions. So if you're in an emissions controlled state, you're not going to be able to pass the OBD2 emissions. Let's see. Alright, so I'm going to go over here and talk to... So this guy had some questions. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Whoops. Okay. Steven. Alright, so this guy asked some questions. So, best cost-friendly upgrade path starting with the stock differential. Then once the car is sorted, upgrading it. I wouldn't upgrade the diff at all. If you're trying to use the stock diff, just use my mounting. It is going to cost you more in the long run. As long as you're not going over 400 horsepower to the tire, you can kind of get away with that. And if not, just don't be trying to dump the clutch or anything, and just accelerating. If you want to do anything, you can just accelerate it from a roll, not something to where it's going to spin the tires and then hook. That's going to cause a lot of jolting and unwanted friction that you're going to cause with that diff. Let's see. And then once you kind of get everything ironed out, you can use that diff for a good while. But the biggest thing is when it does break, it does cause problems. And you could also just eyeball it, look at it whenever you're running it. But I would run it for as little time as possible if you're going to be going beyond that mark. And then you'll be going to the 488. So that's the one that I would recommend. With the 488, you have 3 different options. You have the Thunderbird, which comes with gear ratios from 273s all the way up to, I think, 323s, something like that. Then the Cobra they're all 355s. And then the Explorers come with 355s and 373s, I believe. The Cobras are not limited slip differentials. The Cobras are limited slip differentials. The Explorers are not a limited slip differential. None of them are. The Thunderbirds have some that are limited slip and then some that aren't. So if I would highly recommend looking for and finding a limited slip Thunderbird one. And then for the iron blocks, even for those, I still use the same BC coilovers that we sell on the website. I don't change that. Let's see, for 400 horsepower, you know, I don't know. I think that if you go to my website, let me go look. So I am going to, you know what? Let me go over here and screen share. Doesn't look like it's letting me screen share, but anyway, so let's go to the drive shaft options. I would recommend the 3-inch drive shaft, and you could do the aluminum 3-inch drive shaft. Let's see. Well, that's gonna depend on the transmission you use. You can get away with using the 3-inch drive shaft for 400 horsepower with the aluminum one. I would recommend just going to the 3.5-inch drive shaft that's aluminum. I don't believe it's that much more of a cost. Let me try to go through here. I don't think this really matters. So that's $370. Let's see. No, let's see. So that's 7. Well, I guess that is a good bit difference. If you ever intend on going beyond 400 horsepower, I would recommend just getting the 3.5-inch drive shaft. If you're not, you can get away with the 3-inch drive shaft. So if you purchase the swap kit or any of the products in there, it's supposed to automatically give you access to the documentation for installing that product. If it doesn't, just email us and we'll make sure to get you that installation guide or photos and stuff that you need. Let's see. As far as the brake lines, I don't know what the brake lines are. Whether it's a double flare or not, I don't remember, and so that's something you'll just have to pull one of the lines off and look. Let's see. Let's see. So I think I covered all of the stuff that he was wanting to know about. Is there anybody else out there that is that has a question of what that they feel like they'd like to ask? Okay. Let me see what else I wanted to. Let me see if I can figure out how I can screen share this thing. Okay, I guess I can't do that. I was gonna try to screen share, but I guess that's a video I'm gonna do next. Let's see. Alright, well, I think that is it for today. I will see y'all next week.